Blastoise is here, and they're ready to make a splash in Pokemon Unite. Yo, what's going on, guys? I don't know what that just was. I'm just excited that Blastoise is here. All right, we've been waiting, we've been strategizing. Today, I'm going to share with you guys some ideas for strategies that you can use to win with Blastoise on the team. I also want to give you my general opinion on Blastoise. I'll let you know right now that Blastoise is a good Pokemon, but the question is, how good? Are we talking A tier, B tier, S tier? Well, looking at this little Squirtle early game, you can see that we've got Skull Bash, which is a dash and stun. We've also got Water Gun, which is a knockback and stun. The Water Gun will actually knock enemies pretty far back if you hit them with the base of the Water Gun attack, and if you hit them from like the tip of the Water Gun attack, it'll just push them out to the tip. Skull Bash will dash through everybody and everything that line will points through, and you'll stun everything in your wake. So this is going to be a great kit for pulling off ganks whenever your jungler comes into your lane. It's just going to be gank city. You Skull Bash in behind them and then Water Gun to push them in. I could have done it on that Cinderace right there. Imagine if I Skull Bashed behind them and then used Water Gun to push them like directly into the middle of the bees. That would have been sick. But you know, this was just the first night that Blastoise came out, so my brain wasn't ready to make these epic plays. But trust me, I see them now, okay, with my future 2020 hindsight. Once you start leveling up into Wartortle, you're gonna unlock Hydro Pump and Surf. Now, both of these moves are really just great disengagement tools. Whenever somebody tries to jump onto your team, you just throw out that Water Gun. If people are still around your team, you throw out the Surf, and boom, your team is in the clear. Nobody's getting jumped on, and hopefully your team had a chance to do a little bit of damage during that time before the enemies got all pushed away. Snorlax's Block and Slowbro's Surf are pretty similar to what's going on with Wartortle / Blastoise's Surf. Basically, all those moves just keep people out of the game for an extended period of time. Now, there's also the Hydro Pump, which is a lot like Ninetales' Blizzard. It's just another disengagement tool. You push people away, do some damage. What's different with Blastoise compared to all those other Pokemon I just mentioned with those moves is that Blastoise has access to both at the same time. You can use two strong, powerful disengagement tools. These tools don't purely have to be used for disengagement, but that's just kind of like what they do is push people away from you, so it's good for getting people off of your team. Now, Snorlax, in comparison, has that Heavy Slam, which is great for an engagement. It's more proactive for jumping out and starting a team fight. Blastoise, on the other hand, like I said, they've got those double disengagement tools. Now, onto some of those strategies that I was talking about that you can use with Blastoise. Something that I think is really interesting about Blastoise is that they can enable your team to pull off really consistent Rotom plays, because you can use Surf to just push people back and force the Rotom to be able to go into the goal if your team chooses to go for the Rotom play. So my team has been forming strategies since before Blastoise even came out. We've been talking about, like, you know, nobody uses Rotom, like what's the way that people use Rotom? Like, how can we make it worth it? How can we bring this objective back into the meta? And so what we came up with is, like, we want to break the top goal ring before we even knock out Rotom. So we're going ham during the early game to whittle down that top ring. And then right before we knock out the Rotom, we dunk all the points we've got on that top ring, break it. And now you can see we knocked out the Rotom, and we were able to force that Rotom all the way to that tier 2 goal. There's still some time on that Rotom, so if I had points, I could dunk him. Unfortunately, this Garchomp, I couldn't steal anything from him. Just a second ago, like, my team was available to come help me fight that Garchomp, but we just weren't very practiced on this strategy. But I definitely think, like, we didn't get everything that we could have gotten done there. Like, you can see my team is, like, in there fighting. Like, they should have just been in there helping me fight when I was trying to steal those Audinos from the Garchomp. And then you know, I would have lived. But either way, we still do end up breaking that top goal ring, which is pretty much the goal for this strategy, is we want to use that Rotom to break those top goal rings as soon as possible. And now all these future Rotoms are really big threats because they're going to be, these Rotoms are going to be heading towards the home base goal. And what that means is that there's no limit on the amount of points that we can get off of that Rotom. When Rotom gets to like one of the outer goals, eventually those goal rings will break. So you have to stop like using the Rotom to score points. But when you got that Rotom headed to home base, that is potentially, you know, infinite damage, but not really infinite because you can't have infinite points. But you know, there's no cap on the amount of points that you could potentially score off of that play. What makes Blastoise special, in my opinion, compared to other defenders is just the unparalleled disengage potential. You have access to using 2 disengage moves. So what can we do with this? Well, let's examine what worked in the past and what is still working to this day. Pokemon like Cinderace and Greninja are extremely popular for their ability to dish out just boatloads of damage over the course of a team fight. And Snorlax was very popular because Snorlax could engage and start up a team fight. Now, Pokemon like Venusaur and Gardevoir have not been able to find their footing in any top-level tournament teams because it's just too easy for a good team with the Snorlax to simply rush that Gardevoir or Venusaur down before they can even do anything. Now, with Blastoise around, you can consistently keep enemies at bay. Gardevoir and Venusaur now have the front line that they've always needed to buy them enough time to poke enemies down with some long-range spellbook action. Whoa. Blastoise, Venusaur, Gardevoir, and Mr. Mime is the team composition that I think has the potential to rise up this patch as the poke comp. Mr. Mime and Blastoise can keep opponents away, while Venusaur and Gardevoir deal their long-range damage to opponents as they try to push objectives and goals. Now, if you just want to stick to the meta, then Blastoise is still going to be very useful for securing objectives by pushing opponents away from the objective and allowing your team to take that last hit uncontested. By the way, if you're finding this information useful and would like to see more of my Pokemon Unite content in the future, then don't forget to like this video. It's the best way to support me for free, so please like the video. And you know what, we're already here, so let's just go ahead and say it. Don't forget to check out my Twitch stream, link in the description. Feel free to stop by, ask me any questions you have about the game, and give me a follow. I'm gonna be honest, I can't call Blastoise S tier just yet. We need an S tier strategy that features Blastoise before we can call them an S tier. Right now, I think Blastoise is right about on par with Snorlax, so A tier for Blastoise for me right now. Snorlax is different, they're more oriented towards engagement, and Blastoise is more about being reactive to what your enemies are doing. Slowbro is definitely weaker than these other 2 defenders, but I wouldn't say that they're outclassed because Slowbro just offers a different utility. Yes, Slowbro's Surf definitely looks like it's weaker than Blastoise's Surf, but if you look at the kit as a whole, Slowbro is just offering something different where they're able to lock down a single target for a very long time with the Unite move or with Telekinesis. And when you look at that whole kit, you know, maybe it would actually be too OP for Slowbro to be able to just lock people down for a long time with Surf in the early game. As it is now, Surf doesn't become the CC powerhouse that it can really become until after you get Surf Plus, when every single wave is stunning, doing the little mini stun knock-up. Right now, when you get level 4, you only get the knock-up stun on the first wave hit until you get that Surf Plus. Now, we haven't talked about Rapid Spin and Water Spout just yet, but I think those 2 moves are probably the best tanky Bruiser moveset that we have in the game so far. It does the most damage and is very tanky. With Crustle, you can go damage mode by using Shell Smash, but when you Shell Smash, you give up the tankiness, and on Snorlax, you can go Bruiser mode with Flail Yawn, and you can get a lot of damage out of that moveset and still be tanky, but it's not very consistent damage because the damage does depend on how much health Snorlax currently has compared to the Rapid Spin Water Spout moveset, which is just consistently able to do damage and you're still tanky. If you do take the Rapid Spin and Water Spout moveset, then you better be ready to put yourself on the front line between the enemies and your backline supports and damage dealers. You need to be there to keep the enemies busy while your team does the damage, otherwise you're not doing your job as the defender. You can do all these crazy strategies with Blastoise to make the Pokemon work, but the fundamentals of what this Pokemon is trying to do is the same. You're a defender, so you want to hold a perimeter with whatever tools you've got, and if you can do all that, then you're going to be the front line that your team needs to keep the structure of the team positioning nice and happy, like a good, functioning family. If you'd like to see some strategies that I use in solo queue to carry myself, then check out this Crustle gameplay commentary.